Hello and welcome to the South Yorkshire Women's Football Podcast. I'm Ollie Pallas.
And I'm Lewis Railton.
Today we've got Sheffield Wednesday Ladies Assistant Manager Kieron Lee on the pod. Lewis, what does Kieron talk about?
Well, he discusses the 24-25 season for the Owlesses and what is next for the club.
And the challenge is, can we close that gap slightly? But there's a lot of sides out there that really strong teams that are doing really well.
Stay tuned for all that and more, but for now, let's head over to the episode. We'll sort of get started straight away. Just sort of give us a sort of overview of your sort of involvement in football, how you got started, and sort of like your pathway right the way through to where we are today, if you don't mind. If you can sum it up in a short period of time.
Yeah. No, I'll sum it up. So I played football. I also played rugby league when I was younger, but I always had a love for football. I coached boys teams when I was younger, and then somehow I've got 5 children, so I've got 3 daughters. 2 daughters did gymnastics, 2 boys played football, and then my youngest daughter were looking for a sport, which is Romy. So we looked into football. She got into it, she enjoyed it from day one. I offered to help out one of the coaches that were coaching at Aquaforce at the time, which probably were a big mistake. And then shortly afterwards, I took over coaching role there. And the rest is history, really.
Why women's football? I know because sort of Romy got involved, but do you have was there an option for you to maybe go in the men's game at some point, or have you always? Yeah,
I've done work in men's game and boys football, but I just like the idea. I've always liked the idea of promoting women and women to be strong, powerful, and believe in themselves. And I just saw that as an opportunity. There are a lot of people when we started with women's football that were against it. A lot of backlash from people that it weren't the right thing for women to be doing, and that just spurred me on even more to make sure that we try to make it a success.
And just looking at your career in general, are there any highlights that spring up?
Do you know where I knew you were going to ask me if there's any highlights? The highlights really. I think initially when I got into it, it were all about winning. And it has been that in past, winning, being the most successful. And as I've got older, I think I thought about it on the way across, and I think the highlight for me in women's game so far is the, sounds a bit cheesy, but it's the friendships that you build with the players. And that does it for me. And sometimes I can't believe I'm saying that. I wouldn't be saying that 10 years ago. It'd be all about winning. The winning's good. The successful days are good, but building good relationships with players is the most important thing for me.
Well, I suppose the success almost comes hand in hand with that, because you need that squad cohesion, that energy around the team for it to translate onto the pitch, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. You need loyal players. You need players that want to play for you. So yeah, I think I've done quite well with that over time. Yeah, there's been some times where I probably made mistakes with players, but on the most, I think I've done quite well, and I do have a loyal following of players, so it's good.
What's it like? I mean, we've talked a little bit about Romy. What's it like for you coaching one of your children? Do you sort of feel a sense of pride about it?
Oh yeah, I'm proud of her. I'm proud of all the girls.
Yeah.
And again, we're going cheesy now. I think it's my age. I think I'm getting to that age where you see them all as your kids. You see them all as part of the family. Yeah, Romy's my daughter, but every player that we're working with has got a special part in what we do, whether it be Sheffield Wednesday, Barnsley, wherever we are. Yeah, it's. I have no problems having my daughter playing football. She probably takes like any daughter does. Takes a bit more flack than most, but she's got a bit of a side to her where she'll stand up for herself. I think that's coming from my mum, and she grasses me up to her mum if I'm too not fair with her. I get in trouble at home, so I've got to watch what I'm doing. But yeah, it's good.
Can I ask you a bit about the sort of environment you've created at Sheffield Wednesday Ladies as well? 2 coaches sort of working together. What kind of culture are you trying to create? Have you created, and what do you try and get? What's the most you try and get out of your players? What's kind of like the message that you send to them to be good players and sort of good people, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, we want them to believe in their own ability. We want to the environment we've created. It's been difficult because when I came in, it's been a rebuilding job really. So we built a team for Sheffield and Hallam 1, and that went quite well. We moved up into North East Regional and then had to try and build again to stay up there. So we've created. It's trying to get loyal players, trying to get players that believe in what we're trying to achieve. I think at Wednesday I was surprised how many, looking through the junior ranks, and if you turn up an hour early for training, which I have done a lot in past, and see how many players are there, and younger players trying to be the best they can be. So we've tried to engage with all the players and all the club, and show that there's a pathway for every player that's there, if that makes sense.
Is that something that wasn't really the case before you came into the
No,
club?
it's been there before. Wednesday's doing well. Like I say, I was just amazed at how many people actually turn up to trials, turn up to training sessions, and they've got passion for football. So I just believe that we should give them all the opportunity and let them see that there is an opportunity to progress.
What's the pathway looking like for sort of young ones
Oh,
coming
fantastic.
through the ranks at the club?
Fantastic. And I know every club says it, and you can see the adverts, that every club puts out there there's a pathway to first team, and I hope there is in every club. But I think sometimes for players you have to show them the example of what the pathway is. So I think we have 4 or 5 young under 16s, 18s reserve players that have come through and represented first team. So when we're having conversations with younger groups, we can show them, for example, this is what happens. Now, it's not going to work for everybody, obviously, but I think we've done all right.
And the communication in the club as a whole, from sort of like the young pathway right the way through to sort of yourselves and Andy in the first team, what's that like? Are you always sort of talking about the progression of players and who might be the sort of next crop that comes through?
We are talking about it, but it can always be improved.
Yeah,
It's probably same at every club. There's improvements, and we're looking at that before trials, and that'll be part of my role next year, to make sure that there's a good line of communication through junior section into seniors.
Could you just give us like a sort of brief insight into how you sort of go about it, and how you want to improve it without trying to give too much away, if that makes sense?
No, you're fine. So in last couple of seasons, it's just being there at training, at younger training sessions, making sure that we get first team players engaging with the younger players, trying to get the younger players, especially on mascot days and things like that, to engage with first team, and just get that message across to coaches. And I'd like to, and Andy's saying that we like to be seen at junior sessions. So the first team manager, the assistant manager, the coaches, at time to time will be at these sessions and we'll be talking to these players. So we're there, we're not hiding away, and it's just the first team against everybody else. We like to be there and involved and approachable. So my job next year is just to this season coming is just to build on that and build on what success the club's had in the last few years.
I imagine when trials do come around, having more than one senior team, it can be a bit of a struggle, a bit of a tug of war for players potentially.
Yeah, it's always going to be a struggle. Yeah.
Is it important to have a firm grasp of the certain quality that come in when they'll go to first team or reserves?
Well, there's not. I mean, this season again, if it's not, I think it is public news. But so there's going to be a new development side, a reserves and first team, obviously, which we've already got. So, yeah, it's not easy. I think last season. Well, I know we did. Last season we had 100 players turn up to the first trial date, which was daunting as coaches. So yeah, it's not easy to work out and to sort out which player's going where, but we keep working on that. We keep talking. We've had plenty of meetings behind the scenes, and I'm sure that we'll get there this season.
Of course, reserves play in Div 2. What league will the development team be going into? Will it
Not
be?
Sure.
Will the
They can't go in. I know for a fact that they can't go in the same division,
Mm-hmm.
so they won't be in Division 2.
Will the pecking order be first team, reserves, then development in terms of priority? Yeah.
Well, the way the club runs is that everybody gets an equal shout out. So I won't say priority, but yeah, there's got to be some kind of structure. So the first team will be in the North East Regional, and then you've got your reserves in Division 2, and I think the Debs can't be in Division 2. So I don't know. That's down to the league to sort that one out where they'll be. But there's some fantastic talent coming through from your 15s, 16s, well, all the way through. So it's exciting.
Will that be the priority for the new development team? More the pathway for the 16s and the 18s who want to get a taste of senior football, as opposed to the players that are coming in from trials from other clubs?
I think there's going to have to be a mix initially, to get the team up and running. But we've always wanted to look across at the 15s, 16s, 18s, and if we're making a decision on what kind of player we want, or do we need to fill a gap in the reserves or first team, the first option is always to look across at the 18s and 16s and see what we can do with players in there and can we progress them through. It's easy to look outside the club, but yeah.
It must just be like an ongoing discussion with players, coaches and all sorts, because I imagine you get quite a lot of ambitious players in the 16s and 18s probably wanting to get their opportunity in the first team or just any sort of senior level as soon as possible. But is it difficult to sort of to manage that and say...
It's definitely the biggest thing is to manage expectations. So yeah, you can get a player that we invite players, we might invite 2 or 3 players from 16s to train with first team. That's just to build confidence, so they can get to know how the first team work, get to know some of the players and that. But you've got to manage expectations. If you bring them to a training session and then they go away thinking that they're a first team player and they don't need to listen to their coaches, the under 16, 18 coaches anymore, they've made it, then that would be wrong. So it's about managing that.
How do you manage that?
I think you've just got to be truthful with them, honest, and just keep a good dialogue going. And I think that's part of my role this year, to have them conversations with people.
Just keep them grounded, effectively.
Keep them grounded, yeah. But when they're ready, then they'll go.
Yeah.
But as my gaffer always says, they've got to earn the stripes. You know what I mean? They've got to put the hard yards in. I think sometimes, I'm not just talking about Wednesdays, sometimes at clubs you get individuals that or parents or whatever that think that they go from there and it's there and everything, there's nothing in between. It's the hard work in between that makes the player, in my opinion.
How do you go about sort of retaining players as well? Because obviously there are sort of other attractions when you're sort of a teenager, whether that's sort of trying to,
Going to
sort
pub.
of going to the pub or dabbling in other sports. Yeah, I know when I was little, a lot of my friends, didn't want to play sport because it takes up a lot of your weekend or like a weeknight during the week. So how do you go about the sort of challenges of everyday life and trying to keep players on board with sort of the vision of the club?
It's difficult. I think, well, we've been through it. When from 16 to 18s to first team, so that 18-year-old, they start to, obviously, there's other things that they can put the mind to, shall we say, at weekends, and it becomes difficult to keep players. But you just got to build that, going back to original question, that you just got to build that bit of friendship, that bit of team mentality, that there's something special outside of, you can go to pub, you've got 5 days hard graft, you might have had I'm going to say a crap week, and I will, because I don't class that as swearing, I'm from Barnsley. But you could have had a crap week at work, but you've always got football to come back to. Yeah. And that's where it needs to be. And it hasn't always been like that, and we have made mistakes. And these times where the football becomes the problem, and it shouldn't be like that. We should all be able to get away from all the nonsense and the noise that's going on, and focus on football and it be an enjoyable time for them.
Like a safe space, almost.
Yeah, but we don't always get it right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
How often do you have to have that conversation, and how do you
stop them going to the pub?
Probably more like
once a week.
But more in terms of team that don't enjoy the football, they come to you and say, not really working for you at the minute. Does there have to be some persuasion on your behalf, or is it?
No, I don't think you can persuade them. I think you can give them the option, and I think it has to be their choice. whatever they want to do, whatever their choice is the right thing to do. We have had players, good football players and good kids, that have said, I'm struggling, I just need to take a break from football. But we try to make sure that we're always there for them when they want to step back into it, if they want to step back into it. If you're trying to create players that's got their own mindset and can make their own decisions and be strong, powerful young women, like we said earlier, then you can't then step in if they make a decision and say, I want to step away from football for a while. That's a decision that they've made, and you have to stick with that. And again, we don't always get it right. It all sounds good. Sometimes we get it wrong.
Can I ask you, sort of moving on from Wednesday Ladies, a bit more about sort of your career and like a sort of broader scope, because you've been involved at other clubs as well. So could you just tell us a little bit about your roles at other clubs, sort of specifically? The two Barnsley clubs, Barnsley Women and Barnsley FC Ladies.
Yeah, it becomes complicated. I think everybody gets confused with it. But yeah, so even now I'm complicated. So we had a good youth team at Barnsley Ladies.
Yeah.
We did really well.
That's the affiliated club.
That's affiliated. The one at, well, let's call it the one that plays from Oakwell.
Yeah.
So we had a good youth set up there, and then we moved to Barnsley Women, and that team progressed into adult football, and then we ended up. Most of these players then joined the reserves in the National League, and did quite well. But that's going back to football. Going back to earlier question about players having other things outside of football. The higher you go, the more dedicated you've got to be. When you're in National League and you're travelling to Newcastle away or wherever, West Brom and it takes up the weekend, and some players want that and some players don't want that. So it becomes, the higher you go, it throws up different challenges. So we did well. I enjoyed it there. I was surprised how well they did though. And then I've had a few, like I said before, a few issues with illnesses, so I had to step away. And then somehow Sheffield Wednesday came into the conversation. I got a lot of grief being a Barnsley lad. A lot of grief. And it excited me to go to Sheffield Wednesday. Ladies. There's, like I said, it's a fantastic club, well-run club, and I just thought, I've got that passion and that drive, and I just wanted to see what we could do.
And I'm guessing the fact that you are a Barnsley fan played into a lot of the fact that you did manage for both of the Barnsley teams.
Yeah, it was brilliant to be. I'm a big Barnsley fan, and there's some fantastic talent in Barnsley women's football. So yeah, it was great.
Looking at the two Barnsley clubs as they are at the minute, they're both playing at Tier 4.
Yep.
How can you see? How do you feel that them clubs have done both on and off the pitch in recent years? Because obviously they're both at level at the minute.
Yep.
Which one can you see just jumping ahead the other?
I'm not going to comment on that, Lois.
Surely you can. Surely.
No. I live near a few of these coaches, so no.
You don't want to knock on the door, do you not?
No, it's hard enough wearing a Wednesday shirt in Barnsley. We are picking a side in Barnsley. They've both done really well. They both had their problems on and off the pitch. The Barnsley ladies, who could play out from Oakwell, had to rebuild, and what they've achieved there is just phenomenal. And then the Barnsley women have got a fantastic setup, and yet they've had the knockbacks over the last couple of years, but they're doing really well as well.
Do you think Barnsley Women FC almost deserve a bit more credit by the fact that they're not affiliated to a men's team? It's almost self-funded because of that.
More credit, or everybody deserves credit. I wouldn't say more credit, but yeah, like I said, they're both doing well on their own pathway. You know what I'm like, Lewis? You're never ever gonna get.
I'll make sure to get something out of you today.
No.
Can I ask you about your opinions on the sort of trajectory of some of the independent clubs like Barnsley Women? Because the sort of best example that we used when we had Steve on was London City Lionesses, who've just been promoted to the Premier Division. Sort of, what do you make of the sort of structure of an independent club? You know, is it slightly different in terms of? Well, obviously it's different because they're not affiliated with the men's side, but you know, what sort of atmosphere is it? What's the atmosphere like at a sort of independent club? And where do you sort of see? Do you want more independent clubs in women's football?
I think that being involved for us space of time at both clubs, I think the atmosphere at both Barnsley teams is fantastic in their own way. They all want success. I think they're both getting success. Independent, to me, it doesn't matter if they're independent or they're affiliated to a club. If they want success, I know Steve's passionate about what he wants to do, and they've done really well. So if you've got passion and commitment, I don't think it matters where you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of clubs out there now, and I'm not going to name names. There's a lot of new clubs out there, and they've got passion, they've got commitment, they want to be successful, and they're all doing it in their own different ways. And hats off to them. I'd take my hat off, but I ain't done my hair. But hats off to every one of them. You know, they're doing it their way, and if it works, then good.
Yeah. Do you sort of see some challenges cropping up with sort of issues of, you know, funding and sponsorship and things like that?
Yeah, they've all got challenges. It don't matter if you're affiliated or you're not.
Yeah.
There's always challenges with funding and things like that. So yeah.
How do you go about sort of funding with at Wednesday Ladies?
Well, everything's covered for us.
Right.
We have last year. We get we give the players the opportunity to get sponsors, which we've done really well with first team and reserves last year. So there's really a good backing from Sheffield community for the women's game. So,
no.
But it's always going to be difficult.
Going back onto Wednesday Ladies, as a general thing, I think something that onlookers notice is it's one of the big Sheffield clubs, slightly far down in the 6th tier of the women's game. Obviously, always get compared to Sheffield United women. Does that ever create expectation on your players? And is that almost a challenge in itself, that you have to sort of divert that extra attention that the players get just because it's the Sheffield Wednesday name?
Not really. No. We're on our own journey. We actually played Sheffield United under 21s in Cup, and we got well beaten by a fantastic football team. But it just showed, and when we sat in at half time, there weren't much talking at half time because they couldn't breathe because they'd run that much. But at full time, you know, the way that we played and the effort that we put in were tremendous. And again, it's hats off to Sheffield United under 21s. They were amazing. But it just shows you if you can commit. I don't know if they train 2 or 3 days a week, and the more things you can throw at football and throw at the squads, and the more energy you put behind it, you can see how players can progress. So again, it's what players want. Some players want that. Some players want to train 3 and 4 times a week and want to push on and see how far they can go. Other players want to take it a little bit steadier. So no, it is what it is. We will do what we have to do. We've got our own journey.
And looking at the season that's just gone, obviously you were in and out of being involved with them.
I kept going fishing and then kept getting a phone call.
As a general, would you say it was a positive season? Because obviously it was coming
100%.
up from the Sheffield and Hallamshire League,
Yep.
and it was the first division back in regional leagues. Was survival always the aim, do you believe?
Yeah, to survive and to do the best we could in that division. And when we set off at the start of the season, it's definitely eye-opening when you kick off at first game of season again. There's some talented players and some strong teams in that division. So to stay up this year was the key objective, which we achieved. And then this coming season we'll see what happens. We want to improve. But like I always say, Lewis, we're on a journey.
Is that the minimum? Is that an improvement on this season, which will hopefully be towards promotion?
Andy's the chief, so Andy will have his own thoughts on what we need to achieve this coming season. But I would think, knowing Andy, that just improving on where we finished last season won't be good enough. Not for us, not for players. We want to do well, but we don't want to get too overconfident and say we're going to do this, that, or other. We're just going to do what we do, work hard, see if we can improve in the trials, improve the squad a bit, and move forward. Like I say, improve on this season.
Yeah, of course. The trials is coming up. What sort of thing you're looking for as a priority when you see that? Is it the commitment or the quality?
A season striker and a world-class goalkeeper. I honestly, I hate trials. I think they're awful. They're awful for players. They're awful for managers. But they've got to be done. It's part of the game, innit? But it's awful.
It can be a bit of a circus.
They're quite awkward, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel for the players because if they want to join the club, which if they're coming to trial, they've got they've got thoughts on joining the club, and you just feel that they're so tense and nervous, and we try and take that away from them. Just enjoy your football. It's all right saying that, but they're still going to be. But yeah, just see if we can improve the squad. We need one or two more players in the squad, so we'll have a look, see what happens.
Yeah, you mentioned goalkeeper there. Is that a key position, or are there any other areas that you're looking for?
There's no key positions. We'll just look to improve the squad. We've got some fantastic players, some fantastic goalkeepers. I say a 50-goal a season striker. We've got some fantastic strikers. Yeah, we just need. It's just getting the mix right. We might need to add a couple of bits in there just to push on a little bit more next season.
So will it not be an overhaul in terms of...
Oh no, we've done with overall. We can't keep... I'm 56, I look about 70. We can't do an overhaul. We don't need to do an overhaul. We've got some cracking players this year. We did an overhaul season before, big changes last season to keep building, and we just steady the ship this year and progress that way. So no more stress like that.
Do you think you and Andy sort of have the same vision? Because when I spoke to him for a separate written piece, he said he didn't want an overhaul. He was probably, you're probably both looking at a couple of additions, but nothing that's going to sort of discombobulate the team, if you know what I mean. Do you think you're sort of along the same wavelength?
Yeah, that's why we work well together.
Yeah.
We think on the same lines most of the time. Well, nearly, yeah. I don't think we've ever had a disagreement. So, we work well together. Andy's more... pragmatic, and I'm more I don't lose my head, but I'm quite quick to jump in and just start giving bollockings out at times. And
that Rotherham reserve game in
exactly.
2 seasons ago comes to mind.
Exactly.
Sit on a hill with a vape.
Yeah.
In terms of the challenges this season, sort of just gone, I know we're sort of chopping and changing in terms of the questions we're asking, but obviously injuries are a big part of the season, and you miss key players at different points. Just sort of elaborate a bit on the sort of the challenges you've faced, not only injuries, because there's obviously other factors as well, and sort of how you overcame them.
The biggest challenge for the first team this season, just gone, the biggest challenge was stepping up and playing against some fantastic football teams, and at times keeping the players believing in the process. When you've had it difficult. I mean, we played Brumsmere away. I think we were losing 5-0 at half time. We was getting absolutely battered, and it's just getting the girls to believe that there is a way forward. So that's been a challenge. Again, building relationships, but you need to win games now and again to have them kind of conversations to say, look, this is what we're trying to do, and you can see it works. Yeah. So I mean, one of the biggest games that stands out and the challenges that helped us, and it sounds crazy, but against Sheffield United, I think we lost 7-0, and they worked the socks off for 90 minutes. And I'm going to say they defended really well, but you lost 7-0. But they defended as a unit, and if you look at the scores and the results that they've had going through this cup competition, we worked hard as a unit, and we did everything we could to keep the score somewhat like reasonable, and we could take that into games after that. If you play like that against Sheffield United and defend like that, you play like that against other teams, you're not going to concede 7 goals.
And in terms of prep for the new season, what's that looking like? How are you sort of shaping up for pre-season and friendlies that are coming up?
Yeah, so all that's in. We've got our own little group, managers group. So all that's being sorted out between first team and reserves development are still getting up and running. So we've got pre-season friendlies coming in. Can't announce anything yet, and we're ready. please God, I hope we're ready for trials tomorrow. We will be ready. So yeah, everything's going well. Everything's looking good. There's plenty of conversations. I've just been away for 2 days, and I had to keep nipping off and pretending I was going for a walk with dog to like have phone calls away from the wife about football. So we're confident that everything's going to plan. I'm looking forward to next season.
There's plenty of players that have been retained so far. Are there still conversations ongoing with current players? Or is it now looking towards trials tomorrow?
No, there's still conversations going on. And then we'll look at trials. And then obviously, there comes a point, there's a tipping point between you players that come to trial that want to sign for Wednesday and the conversations that you're having. So we're still there at the minute. Obviously, we haven't started with trials yet. But yeah, we've had a good number of players want to stay with us. So that's good news.
And in terms of next season, what are the aims and the sort of discussions you're having with coaches in terms of, is it promotion, more progress, building more of a foundation? Sort of, how far ahead are you looking?
Even if I wanted to say we want to get promoted, we want to win the league, we want to rule the world, I'm not going to say that. It's always going to be, we're going to progress. Yeah. And we're going to, we're on a journey. How many times have I said that, Lewis? And we just want to.
We have a journey count.
Yeah,
How many times? I say
it regular, but I don't say that in changing rooms. I talk. Yeah, when doors are shut, we talk about what we really want to do, but we just want to improve on last season.
Can you give any more insight other than the journey into long term, like progress and long term ambition for the club?
We want to rule the world.
There we go.
No, I don't know. We'd be lovely. Don't get me wrong. It'd be lovely to get promoted. It'd be lovely to push on. You said earlier that you've got your Sheffield United are doing amazingly well. Sheffield Wednesday are still building, and the challenge is can we close that gap slightly? But there's a lot of sides out there that are really strong teams that are doing really well. So we just have to keep up with pace and see how things go.
Kieron, thank you very much for coming on and sort of giving your insight into Wednesday Ladies and a bit of your background at other clubs like Barnsley as well. It's been a really sort of interesting conversation, and
no problem. I have enjoyed it, and I hope I've been diplomatic enough.
Perfectly diplomatic, Paul.
Lewis, thanks as always for coming on and being my sidekick, and we'll be back again in the next couple of days for another new episode. So keep an eye out on the SYWF website, on Spotify, on YouTube, and all the social medias. Take care.